Hello, everyone. Let's talk about how are we going to organize this interview essay. Well, here are some options and some ways that I would suggest that you think about organizing it. Most likely, you have completed your 2 interviews now, and you have a lot of information, whether that is written um, through email interviews, or you took notes on what they said, or you filmed it, or you did it through Zoom, or however, or phone, or however you contacted them, however you got their answers that you have written down. Most of the time, when you do an interview with someone, you're going to get a lot more information than you even need or that you will use. So don't feel overwhelmed by how much information you got from these interviews. Now it's time to figure out what from these interviews are you going to take and actually use in the writing of your essay. So this is what I would suggest that you do. I would read back over your interviews or listen to them or whatever you want to do to access that information. And then see what common themes from the interviews you are getting. I would write this down in notes. You can highlight it. You can put on note cards, however you want to do it. But what are those themes? So maybe let's say, for example, I decided to interview 2 teachers because I am a teacher, and if I did this assignment, that's what I would have done. I would be preparing to be a teacher. So if I interviewed 2 teachers, maybe I realized that a theme is, so these are like the common ideas that are running through this. So maybe both teachers I interviewed, let's say I do like a high school teacher and an elementary school teacher. They both tell me they write a lot. Now they're writing very different things. High school teacher is probably writing handouts and is writing using words that are much more higher level than maybe a kindergarten elementary school teacher or a first grade teacher or a sixth grade even, right? Things are much more simple on the handouts. They do a lot more pictures. They do a lot more those type of things. In high school, you don't do that many pictures. You pretty much use words because that's what people know, unless you're teaching yourself. But you get the idea. So maybe a theme is that there's a lot of writing. Maybe both teachers that interview talked about emailing parents or emailing other teachers or emailing the principal. Okay, great. There's a commonality. Well, I'm going to put that as theme. They email other people, they email parents. Okay, so that's a common topic in both of those. Maybe they both talked about writing lesson plans. Okay, maybe that's a commonality. So that's what you're looking for. I've had people before who have done this assignment who interview 2 people in the same job and get incredibly different answers with very little overlap. You want to look for where there's that overlap. So maybe they both talked about writing being really important, but the types of writing, everything else about writing is way different. Well, great. They talked about writing being important. So that's the overlap. That's what you write down. That's the theme that writing was important. And then in your essay, you're going to discuss how uh, they both valued writing, but they valued it and how they did it was very, very different. So that's what you're going to start reading through is finding what are those themes about reading and writing that they talk about. So then you write down those themes that you found from each interview and you organize it how you want to organize it. I usually type it in or write it down, my themes, and then some examples to that so that I can, as I'm doing it, I'm like, okay, writing's important. Here's how they talked about writing. I put those examples down. That helps me organize it, especially as I'm starting thinking about writing an outline, which you will be doing this week. So then you want to write down a thesis based on the themes. Now go if you haven't looked at my how to write a thesis and what is a thesis lecture, go and watch that before you continue on from here because I explain in great detail what a thesis is. Pretty much it is your overarching, I move my hand that way, it looks strange, but it's the umbrella, it's the main argument you are making in your essay. And everything you write has to tie back to that thesis. So you can keep it pretty general. You can say writing is really important in, let's say, the legal field, but students studying law and a lawyer think about and write about writing in very different ways. So that would be like a thesis. That it would be they both value writing and writing is important, but they think about it in very, very different ways. So that's your thesis. You have some kind of introduction. I would say that would probably be in your introduction where you're introducing the 2 people that you interviewed. And then the very last sentence of that first paragraph is your thesis. And then the rest of your essay is structured around that. So first of all, you want to write an outline based on your thesis. So you write your thesis. Okay, so writing is important, but writing for a student versus exposition is very, very different. So then maybe I want to think about then what do I want in the next paragraph? How am I going to include both of these interviews within this essay? And then you also want to include specific support. Your support is these interviews. You can quote them directly, put their names after in text citations. You want to quote these interviews. This is your research. So whatever argument you're making, you are using the interviews to support your argument. So here are some ideas. So in the introduction, provide background information, introduce the two people you interviewed, and then your thesis is the last sentence of the introduction. Okay, let's say your two interviewees say similar things. So like in my case of the education, the teachers, okay, they are saying similar things. Yes, there's differences, but overall it's similar. So in that case, maybe what I do, and these are just suggestions, you don't have to follow this, just to help you think about this. I go, okay, my first strategy, whatever that is, that they both write, let's say emails to parents. Or in this whatever paragraph topic is extensive writing. So then I talk about how whoever I interviewed, how they write a lot of reports. And I talk about the second one, writes long essays. That's if it was a student or whatever. My teaching example would be probably email parents, and I'd write about both of their examples in emailing parents, and I'd include details from the interviews and whatever. Then I got another paragraph topic that they do a lot of emails to each other, to other teachers, or maybe I switch and do lesson plans. They both write a lot of lesson plans, so then I talk about both within these paragraphs about the lesson plans that they're doing. And then maybe I have a couple of paragraphs where I talk about how they're different as well. It's up to me on what I want to do with that one. How about if they say very different things? Some of you are going to have interviews, and some of you have already indicated to me through emails that you have interviews that were said incredibly different things that are not related really at all, other than people saying they wrote a lot. Okay, well, then you've really got to go with whatever those few things are that are similar and really focus on that. So maybe you have a paragraph like, okay, writing is important. So then you say, okay, this is how they talk about writing being important. In contrast to that, here's how this person talks about writing being important. So that you're not really comparing them or connecting them together, you're really keeping them separate, and that's just fine. And then you have another paragraph about, okay, well, writing's so important. Maybe they also said that they write a lot. So maybe that's your second one. So they write a lot. I think it's important is your first point. Your second point is that they write a lot, and then you talk about each one, compare and contrast the two interviews about their writing a lot. So the student is writing at like 2 to 3 a.m., writing these long essays, and the lawyer is writing long legal briefs, or he's dictating it and having somebody's secretary or something transcribe it, and so it's less his writing or her writing and more it being transcribed. However it is, but these are just ideas on how you can organize it. You just want to have some kind of organization organized around these themes. Okay, these themes are really what brings it together, and that's really what your essay has got to be organized around. Themes. What are those? What are do they say that is related to each other that you can then form that as the basis of your outline? So, please let me know if you have any questions about this. I'm more than happy to help. Just send me an email. Thanks so much.